Hello everyone, my name is Farah. I am your instructor for this course. You guys are here for CRI2101. This is a critical analysis class. Right, let's get started. We are doing this because on Thursday, which is supposed to be yesterday, a lot of you guys have went back home and I've decided, it's fine and we're going to do an online class instead. So please stay tuned to this course, in this online course, because I'll be talking about your first test in a bit. All right, so let's move on. As usual, I would always remind you guys about your assessments. As I mentioned, it does not matter how many times, how punctual you guys are to the classroom. What matters is that you guys have to complete all of these assessments. This is very crucial, guys. These are the ones that contribute to your marks for CRI 2101. Very often students will ask me, Miss, blackboard got marks. So these are the things that will be marked and contribute to your final grade for this course, okay? Not anything else. Your blackboard is very important for your revision, for your tests, for your tutorials. That's going to help you, that's going to aid you towards understanding this course. But the one that will be marked are only these things, okay? So as you can see here, we are going to have our first test in week 4. Now is week 2. Once you guys will be coming back after the Chinese New Year break, it's going to be week 3. By all means, we only have one more week to do revision and actually to finish all of our syllabus, okay? So please, I know that this is your time, this is your Raya, this is your Chinese New Year break, but please take your time, spare some moments from your precious mid-semester break to actually study and prepare for your test 1, right? Let's move on. This is to better illustrate what's going to happen throughout the semester. Next. Right, let me talk to you about your test 1. Your test 1 is only 10% of your marks. Therefore, it's 1 out of 10 of your whole grade for this course. And it's going to be in week 4. Please mark your calendar. It's on 13th of February, 2020. It's going to be during our class time. You have to come early to finish your tests, all right? So please come to this class because this will contribute to your marks. If you are unable to come, please email me and give me legit reasons. Give me legit evidences. If you cannot do that, unfortunately, you will be getting 0 in your test 1. All right? Now, let's talk about what we are going to test you guys on. So in your test 1, we will be looking at whether or not you can tell us if that sentence or claims. Okay, so you need to be able to differentiate between claims and non-claims. And as you can remember, there are 2 tests for claims. Yeah? So I'm not going to touch into what we have learned before. So if you haven't been able to actually differentiate between claims and non-claims, please go back to your slides from previous lectures and please study it. If you feel like you need extra help, please email me and then we can schedule an appointment to clarify things for you. All right. Next, we also will be testing whether or not you can tell us if that is an argument or not. So if it is an argument, you have to tell us what are the premises and what is the conclusion of the argument. All right, and then we want you guys to be able to differentiate if the sentence or the claim is ambiguous, vague, or overgeneralized. You should also be able to see if the claim is subjective or objective. So this is basically something that you've learned before, yeah? And in today's class, in this online class, I'll be talking about descriptive and prescriptive claims, and as well as a bit of value judgment. So what we can see here, we basically has we basically have covered up almost all of the things that will be tested in your test 1. But we also have one more thing, that is repairing argument. Yeah, repairing argument. We will talk about it once you guys are back from your mid-semester break. Okay, so we're gonna have the last 1 week before you go for your test 1 to talk about repairing argument. Okay, now let's talk about the structure of your test. There are 30 questions. You have to answer all 30 questions. There are 3 types of questions that you have to answer. The first one is fill in the blanks. Next is MCQ. And then lastly is the evaluating argument, the one that I mentioned before. So you have to tell us if this is an argument, and if it is an argument, you have to tell us what are the premises and also where's the conclusion. Okay, so once you are back, if we still have the time, if we still have the time, I'll try and do a bit of revision in class before I send you guys off for your test 1 in week 4. No promises though, but I'll try my best. Okay, right, so as usual, I always do a bit of recap before I move on to the next part of the course. I always wanted to see whether or not you guys managed to do what you should be accomplishing, from previous class. So let's see if you can remember a thing or two from our previous class. Let's see. I want you guys to stop and pause this video, and I want you guys to take out a piece of paper. No. You guys should already have a piece of paper or your book right in front of you, because if you guys are listening to this, you should have a book to take note with. Alright, so I want you guys to answer these 4 questions. Please pause this video and please be honest with yourself. Okay, so if you want to go and peek into your your personal notes, you can do that, but I would rather have you guys to be honest about yourself and to think whether or not you have accomplished these 4 things. Right, please pause this video and try to answer these questions. Now, let's talk about these things, because as I mentioned before in previous slides, that these will be tested in your test 1. Am I right? Right, let's take a look at this. So you should be able to differentiate between objective claim and subjective claim. Not only that, in subjective claim, we have intersubjective claim and also subjective fallacy. I'm going to explain the definition and as well as giving you some elaboration to further help you to understand these things. So let's take a look at subjective claim first, because it's much more easier to understand subjective claim first, then we're going to talk about objective claim. So subjective claim is a claim that if it's true or not, okay, it all depends on one person, what a person thinks, or even someone or some group, like a bunch of people, what they think, what they believe, and what they feel about it. Okay, so it's very subjective. Now let's take a look at objective claim. Objective claim is when the claim is the opposite of subjective. There is no gray area. It's very absolute. It's very fair and impartial. Therefore, it's objective. Now let's take a look at the example here. We say that Kim is 80 kilogram. So as you can see here is in the weighing scale. So the weighing scale wouldn't lie to you. It's very objective. So there's the truthness of it. It comes very fair, impartial. Okay, right. This is something objective. But a subjective claim can be dependent on a person, such as this claim here. Kim is fat. How would you say if someone is fat or not? Right? So how would you say, does 45 considered as fat to you? Does 50 considered as fat to you? So the word fat here is very subjective. It depends on what a person thinks, or even what a group of person thinks about the word fat. Okay? Right, because I know for sure, people in Korea would have a certain beauty standard, and a group of people in Korea would think that 50 kilogram is fat. Therefore, it's very subjective. Okay, got it? Now, in subjective claim, there are two more terms that you have to understand. The first one is intersubjective claim, and another one is by committing to a subjective fallacy. Let's talk about intersubjective claim first. So intersubjective claim is when in a group of people, in one community, the whole people, the group of people of them believe that it's the statement. So it's basically the same thing that I said just now in subjective claim, that in Korea there is a certain standard of beauty, and they all in Korea generally agrees to it. Yeah, so they generally agrees that maybe in order for you to be considered as beautiful, you need double eyes. Yeah, so it's this subjective. It's like the whole people in that community believe on certain statements, and it's believed by everyone in that community. So that is something that we call intersubjective claim. Now, let's talk about subjective fallacy now. Subjective fallacy is the mistake to argue that there is certain, truthness when it comes to subjective claim. For example, here, this used to be a trend in China where women in China, they tend to compare their waist to an A4 paper. So they believe that they have the ideal look of a Chinese woman if their waist is smaller than the A4 paper. So it's a fallacy for you to think that you are beautiful if you have waist, smaller than A4 paper. So it's a mistake for you to think that you are beautiful, that it's objective. So you believe, if you think that, you have to have a waist that is smaller than A4 paper in order for you to be considered as beautiful in China. Therefore, you are committing to a subjective fallacy. As I mentioned, subjective is the same thing here with subjective claim, and fallacy means mistake. You are committing to that mistake. Okay, so I hope this table basically summarizes all of these things. And if you still have problem understanding this, please do schedule an appointment to see me. All right. Okay, let's move on to what we want to learn today. At the end of today's lesson, you should be able to differentiate, to distinguish between descriptive and prescriptive claims. So you also need to be able to understand value judgment and why is it, important in prescriptive claims, particularly in prescriptive claims. So value judgment only applies in prescriptive claims. You need to also be able to understand the relationship between standards and also prescriptive claims. All right? So first, I want you to look at these two sentences. First one we have here, drunk drivers kill more people than sober drivers. Okay, that's one thing. And then the second one, there should be a law against driving drunk. Okay, so which one of these two is descriptive or describing something? Which one of this is prescriptive? Prescriptive is something like you have been instructed to do so. Okay, so you should be able to know which one of these by understanding the language in each sentences or in each claims here. Here, every claim it's either descriptive or prescriptive. Descriptive is when you are trying to describe what is it. Prescriptive is when you want to describe what it should be. Okay, got it? Now here, this is the aforementioned example that I gave you here. So let's take a look. Drunk drivers kill more people than sober drivers do. Does this describe or does this prescribe to you? It's describing, am I right? So you are telling me that as compared to sober or person who does not drink, drunk drivers, they kill more people. It's describing you. It's telling you a description. Am I right? What about this? Does this describe something to you, or does this tell you what it should be? Yes, correct. There should be a law against driving drunk, or drunk driving is something that is prescribed because it's telling you what it should be. So the key word here, if I can say, should be the modal verb should be. When there's a word should be, must, all of those modal verbs is telling you what. It's prescribing you, telling you what it is. Therefore, it's prescriptive claim. What about this? Selling cocaine is against the law. Does this describe or does this prescribe to you? It's described, right? So it's telling you that it's unlawful for you to sell cocaine. Next. This one. Good. Because of the word shouldn't here, as I mentioned before, the modal verb should not is telling you what it should be. Therefore, it is prescriptive, prescribing you that you should do something, you should not do something. Okay? Here, the government must not legalize marijuana. So must not, therefore prescribing you. So they're telling you, you must not. Alright? Next. Okay, here we have a bit of dialogue here. Ken said, I'm hot. But then Dan said, you should take off your sweater. Right. So here, which claim is it? Is this descriptive or is it prescriptive? In here, there are both here. Why? Because Ken is telling or describing that he is hot, as if panas. But Dan here is prescribing Ken that he should take his sweater off. Therefore, he is committing or he is giving a prescriptive claim. Now, let's jump into the next one. When someone says that it's good, better, best, bad, worse, or making some value judgment, that is meant as a prescriptive, in a sense that you should not do something or you should do something. But you have to remember that not every value judgment is prescriptive. Let's take a look at some examples first. Texting while driving is bad. Is this prescriptive or not? This is prescriptive because even though there is no word like you should not text while driving, this is not what it's explicitly saying. But when you read this, texting while driving is bad, it's also indicating that you should not text people when you drive. Am I right? Therefore, this is a prescriptive claim. Next, it is wrong to cheat in exam. Is this a prescriptive or descriptive? Exactly, this is prescriptive because in other way or in other meaning, it means that you should not cheat in your exam. Alright? So sometimes you have to look at the meaning behind it. Even though there is no modal verbs like should not, must, you also have to understand the meaning behind it. Yeah? Right, let's see here. The doctor says to the patient, you should see some improvement in your chest pains by the end of this week. So, is this prescriptive or not? Yes, this is not prescriptive, darlings. This is not prescriptive. Why? Because when you say you should see some improvement, you might see it, you might not see it. It does not say that you should eat your medication. It does not say that. It's trying to say that there is a possibility that you might not see, some improvements. Therefore, this is not prescriptive. Okay? What about this? Cats are disagreeable animal. Is this prescriptive or descriptive? Alright, now here, let's take a look. This is actually a value judgment, because value judgment, there is no should by it or apply by it. But you have to remember, not every value judgment is prescriptive. So what it means that this statement could be dependent on whatever that person's value that it has. And it's not always prescriptive because it has no words, as I mentioned just now, modal verb should or implying to that word. Okay? Let's see here, value judgment. There's not enough ice cream for you, Pamela? What do you mean? There's no such thing as too much ice cream. So here, as you can see here, Jack is saying that there's not enough ice cream to you, Pamela. But the problem is, how do you know that if there is enough or not enough ice cream? Yeah? So what he means is that Pamela actually should stop eating, right? So he's prescribing to you, he's prescribing to Pamela that, you should actually stop eating now because there's not enough ice cream for you. But then Pamela, being a very critical person, I guess, she said, what do you mean? What do you mean by too much ice cream? Yeah? So basically what Pamela did here is that she is trying to challenge him by saying that, what do you mean? Okay, there's no standard of too much ice cream or too less ice cream here. Okay, so now let's move on and continue talking about certain standards there is. So when it comes to only prescriptive claim, sometimes it exists or it has certain standard what it should be or what it should not be. Because when you prescribe, you have to think. There's certain judgment there. There's certain standard that you think, is this good or is this bad? Am I right? So we want to talk about some ethical or sensitive issues, whether or not there should be certain standards to certain things in order for us to prescribe some claims to everyone. Right, let's take a look at this sentence here. Abortion is wrong. So when we talk about abortion, it's when you got pregnant and you don't want the baby anymore, am I right? So this is prescriptive simply because you're saying that it's wrong, but then which part of it that makes it wrong? Does it prescribed by the Bible or the Quran, or just because of the moral ethics that you have as a person? Right? Or you can say eating dog is bad in a way that you're trying to prescribe to somebody that you should not eat dogs. Am I right? But then, what kind of standard are you basing this argument or this claim based on? So is it something that relates to, being a vegetarian, where you believe that, every animal has their own rights and life as well, therefore you should not eat meat? Or is it because in the Quran says so? Or is it because of some moral values that you have? Or even questions like, it's wrong to kill people. In a way, it's a statement saying that you should not, but in in a better perspective, it's basically saying that you should not kill someone. But then it raises the question, yeah, it raises the question, where do you get the judgment from? Where's the standard? Okay, so basically this is some sort of like moral ethics that you believed in, whatever believed that you believed in. So there is certain standard, there is certain judgment that it should be based on as well. Okay, we have now finally come to an end. So this is the end of our online class. But before we separate our ways, I want you guys to do this simple task here. So I have created a Blackboard discussion. Okay, so I've created a Blackboard discussion. All I want you guys to do is tell me all of these 3 questions, these 3 claims. Is this prescriptive or is it descriptive? If you think this is prescriptive, why is it so? What does this claim entail? What does it mean by each one of these claims? Okay, so I want you guys to take your time and do it. So I'm extending the due date instead of this week. You can do this up until 2nd of February 2020. This is on Sunday. And if you do this and also listen to this online lecture, then only I'm going to take your attendance for yesterday's class. Okay, are you guys clear about that? Okay, you guys are clear about that. So thank you so much guys for listening. Have a good mid-semester break, right? Enjoy your time with your friends and family. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget your Blackboard discussion. All right, thank you so much guys. Have a wonderful day.